Again, reminding everyone to keep their microphones muted. To formally start, we have Dr. Cecilia A. Suarez. Doc Cheche.
Thank you, Miss Margo. Good morning, everyone. Magandang umaga sa lahat ng mga nag-greet sa atin sa chat box. Good morning po. We see familiar names and familiar faces and new faces joining us today. Thank you so much. Welcome to ASELT, the Ateneo Center for English Language Teaching of the Ateneo de Manila University. And of course, welcome to our free webinar on understanding the context of English language teaching in the Matatag curriculum. I'm Cheche Suarez, and assisting me are Ms. Vicky Calderon, Ms. Carms Arcigal, and Ms. Margo Florenciano. And we are your ASELT team bringing this free webinar to you. Allow us to welcome you, and we hope that may I remind everyone to keep their microphones muted before I continue. Sir Jed. Okay, thank you. So we hope that you pick up a thing or two to help you teach English more effectively. And before anything else, of course, on behalf of the team, we'd like to thank you for choosing to be with us on a Saturday morning. There are already 143 participants in the room. And I hope that, there are still those in the waiting room. So there will be more to join us. Now, I will not make you wait any longer. So let me introduce the members of the panel now. We have two panel members who will talk about how to teach English to our multilingual learners considering the Matatag curriculum. So, the first member of our panel is Miss Ayet Ferriols. She is currently taking up Doctor of Philosophy in Applied Linguistics at the De La Salle University, Manila, where she also earned her Master of Arts degree in teaching the English language. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in English and graduated magna cum laude from the Polytechnic University of the Philippines. She taught English in a number of universities and local higher education institutions, including the De La Salle University and the National University in Manila. And she was involved in various research and training on language teaching before finally becoming a curriculum specialist in English for the Department of Education Central Office. As part of the Bureau of Curriculum Development, the nature of her work involves crafting the national curriculum framework, standards, and policies, and managing and providing technical assistance in various programs such as capacity building of teachers and development of learners' materials. Currently, Ms. Ferriols, she serves as the supervising education program specialist for English and mother tongue, and the program lead for the NRP, or the National Reading Program. Let's give Ms. Ayet a virtual round of applause.
Good morning, everyone.
Another member of the panel is Dr. Marian Rachel G. Perfecto. She is Associate Professor of the Department of English at Ateneo de Manila University. She served as Chair of the English Department from 2010 to 2013, and from 2023 to 2024. She was Executive Director of ASEL from 2014 to 2020. As a teacher educator, she has worked with secondary and tertiary teachers in the areas of materials and curriculum development, as well as language and literature teaching. Her research and publication are focused on teacher education, ELT, particularly on MTB-MLE, critical literacy, and translanguaging. Her most recent publications are on ELT teaching practices during the pandemic, published in 2023 in Asian Englishes, and on the translanguaging practices of university students, which is a chapter in the book Translanguaging for Empowerment and Equity, published in 2024 by Springer. Let's give Doc Marian a virtual round of applause.
Morning.
And I'm Cheche Suarez, Executive Director of ASELT, or the Ateneo Center for English Language Teaching, and a faculty member at the Department of English, Ateneo de Manila University, your moderator for today. Let's begin our panel discussion by understanding what the Matatag curriculum is. So I'm sure that many of us are wondering, ano nga ba ang Matatag curriculum? I think the best person to help us now is Miss Ayet. Miss Ayet, pakipaliwanag naman sa amin, ano ba ang Matatag curriculum?
Thank you very much, Doc Cheche. Before I begin, I'd like to greet everyone a very good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a privilege to share a platform with educators from the Ateneo de Manila University. This is such a humbling experience for me. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you to Ateneo Center for English Language Teaching for this opportunity to talk about the Matatag English curriculum. Now, what is the Matatag curriculum? Some people might not know this, but even before then DepEd Secretary and VP Sara Duterte assumed office in the Department of Education, our office, the Bureau of Curriculum Development, has already finalized the curriculum documents, and we simply called it the Revised Basic Education Curriculum. Yun lang po yung pangalan niya noon. But then VP Sara came along and she had a very clear agenda in mind, which is known as the Matatag, Bansang Makabata, and Batang Makabansa. And Matatag actually stands for making the curriculum relevant to produce competent and job-ready, active, and responsible citizens, taking steps to accelerate delivery of basic education facilities and services, taking good care of learners by promoting learner well-being, inclusive education, and a positive learning environment, and giving support to teachers to teach better. Now, in the Matatag agenda, where does the revised basic education curriculum comes in, okay? It comes in at the MA part, which tells us that the curriculum should be relevant in order to produce competent and job-ready, active and responsible citizens. So our journey, I call this a journey because it took so many years. The process started in 2018 and it concluded only in 2023. So it's a 5-year process that involved hundreds of stakeholders, both internal and external to the Department of Education. And we have produced, kanina nga po sinasabi ko kay Doc Cheche, such a beautifully crafted curriculum document. And I would have to, of course, acknowledge our partner during this journey, and that is the ACT-RC, or the Assessment, Curriculum, and Technology Research Center, where we met experts from the University of the Philippines and the University of Melbourne who held our hands throughout this journey since 2018 until 2023. So that is the story behind the Matatag curriculum. It's simply an enhancement or a revision of our basic education curriculum. And why did we do this? Maaring ang iba po sinasabi, this is simply a political move, you know, just to brand the curriculum as something that is produced by VP Sara. But no, this actually took many years, okay, to develop, to validate, and to finalize. As I said, it started in 2018, and our goal is to acknowledge that the education landscape is always changing. It is dynamic, it is not static, and so our role in the Department of Education, specifically in BCD, the Bureau of Curriculum Development, we want to make sure that we review the curriculum and appraise it, evaluate it, if it's still responsive and relevant, so that we know that the learners are prepared for what the future will be, especially in light of the biggest disruptor of them all, and that is artificial intelligence. Could we say that the curriculum right now is still responsive to what is happening in the world today? And that is what the Matatag curriculum is. The Matatag curriculum, in short, is an enhanced version of the historical educational move that is the K-12 basic education. And it was designed to address the identified gaps and improve the quality of education in the Philippines. And it focuses on a more streamlined set of learning competencies. We wanted to make sure that there is no cognitive overload, and we wanted to ensure that the content is relevant and meaningful to learners. Ayun po ang Matatag curriculum.
Thank you so much, Miss Ayet. So yan, clear ha, hindi siya bagong curriculum. It's not separate from the K-12 curriculum, but it was done to enhance yung existing curriculum. Thank you so much. So, Miss Ayet, ito ang concern namin sa ASEL kasi nga we support English language teaching in multilingual settings. So, how does the Matatag curriculum support the MTB-MLE program?
Okay, so in order to answer this question, I gave Miss Margot a copy of the framework. Could we quickly pull up the first framework, Miss Margot, that I sent?
Akit na ako. Going upstairs.
The first one,
Ay,
Miss Margot.
boy.
I think it's pink.
Boy.
Again, may we remind our participants to keep their microphones muted. Thank you. Go ahead. Sorry about that, Miss Ayet.
It's okay, ma'am. The one with the cotangential circles. Hindi daw po yun concentric circles. I was corrected by our math majors in the office. Yun po,
Miss
may tatlong
Fernol?
bilog. Yes, ma'am.
Yung ito po ba? The language curriculum framework, is it showing?
It's showing, but
Margot,
the
is that
other
you?
framework.
Yeah.
The language framework.
The language
Yeah.
framework.
Yes.
Yes po. This is what you want me to show, Miss Ferriols?
Yung isa po.
Yung pink po?
I sent
Ito
you,
po?
yes, yung pink. Yan. Okay.
Ayan, apo. Okay po.
Mhm.
Margot, it's still not showing, I think.
Oh, okay. Let me stop share po.
Okay.
Share again.
Not that. Is it okay if I'm given the
Yes,
permission to
please.
share?
Wait,
Ayan, para po.
I'll allow you to share. I can find it. Leon. Paki-try, Miss Ayet, please.
Yeah, i-mute ko sa akin.
So I'm assuming everyone can see the slide?
Yes,
Okay.
you can see
there.
it.
Okay. So prior to the revision of the curriculum framework, of course, we wanted to start out with, or prior to the revision of the curriculum, we wanted to start out with a blueprint that will guide us throughout the whole process of revising the curriculum. And so we came up with this language framework. So as you can see, we have cotangential circles. They share the same tangent. Hindi daw po yan concentric circles, okay? Ayon sa ating mga math majors. Okay, and you will see in this language framework that we put a stronger emphasis on the role of L1 in language learning. If you take a look at the 2016 curriculum documents, there was something missing. There was nothing connecting mother tongue to Filipino to English. And so the approach of teaching all of these three subjects is monolingual. You teach mother tongue as if it's the only language in the curriculum. You teach Filipino as if it's the only language in the curriculum. And then you teach English as if it's the only language in the curriculum. And what does that give us? It gives us this disconnected view of language learning. When in fact, when you teach all of these languages, they have to be connected to one another. And so we wanted to remind language teachers, we wanted to remind our field implementers that in the process of not just teaching mother tongue, but also teaching and learning Filipino in English, L1 is always present. It is unnatural for us to detach the first language in the process of learning another language. And so this very simple framework tells us a very simple message, that at the heart of this whole process, L1 should be acknowledged. L1 has a role. And what is the role? It is the base and language and literacy resource, which means that, for example, if you're a teacher in a Waray classroom, Waray because my husband is Waray, yan. If you're a teacher in a Waray classroom, when you teach Filipino to a Waray learner or English to a Waray learner, L1 will always have to be present. In order for that learner to have a conscious understanding of how Filipino and English works, there has to be an explanation of it in the L1. So we wanted to emphasize that in this language framework. And so what we came up with and how we wanted to express support to the MTBMLE program is not just through this language framework, but also in how this framework is going to be implemented. When we implement the new curriculum, the revised curriculum or the Matatag curriculum, you have in the first grade 2 new language offerings in the form of language, which focuses on oracy in the first language or mother tongue. And then we have reading and literacy, which focuses on literacy formation and development also in the mother tongue. So you have 2 time allotments just for mother tongue in 1 whole year. And the aim of this is to solidify the foundation that has already been provided in kindergarten. Because remember, kindergarten is also delivered in mother tongue. Okay? And they have a domain for communication and literacy in kindergarten. So that is extended in grade 1. It is solidified in grade 1 so that by grade 2, when Filipino and English are introduced in the classroom, formally taught and learned in the classroom, our learners now have a solid foundation of mother tongue or L1. This is how we envision the Matatag curriculum supporting the MTBMLE program. So yung mga naririnig nyo po na wala ng mother tongue, wala ng MTBMLE, right now we are observing status quo because I would like to remind everyone, and I hope as language educators that we're all on the same page, to remove mother tongue is unnatural. Mother tongue should be present in the classroom. Mother tongue should be fostered in the classroom because it serves as the language and literacy resource. All learning starts with mother tongue. Ayan po. And we wanted to make it clear in this document. This is how we support MTBMLE.
Miss Ayet, parang gusto kong magbigay ng heart. Di ba, Doc Marian? Literally, kinikilabutan ako ngayon with that explanation. Because that's what we've been hoping for. To see, to hear from somebody like you from DepEd. Kasi I'm sure naririnig nyo naman and all our participants, especially those who are familiar with what we do at ASELT and the department, syempre with Doc Marian, na we really view language learning in that way. Yeah. Na we cannot teach any additional language without using the mother tongue in the process. Diba? Marami pa tayong pag-uusapan dyan mamaya, si Doc Marian, maraming input dyan. Pero sobrang natuwa lang ako. So, kaya I just had to say it. So, thank you for that explanation and I hope that our participants, our audience members also found some enlightenment, no, in that explanation kasi very clear siya. So, ang ganda. Now, alam na natin na ang Matatag curriculum actually supports the MTBMLE program. Now, medyo magsisegue ako ng konti, Miss Ayet, kasi maya-maya tatanungin ko na si Doc Marian. So, what is the context naman of English language teaching, particularly in this Matatag curriculum? So, how do we teach English? Kahit konti lang, kasi mamaya papasok si Doc Marian dyan. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Is it okay, ma'am, if I ask Miss Margo again to share one of the pictures? Yun pong may big ideas, Miss Margo. Yung may malaking arrow.
Sige po.
And while Miss Margot is pulling up the image, I would like to invite everyone to please read the shaping paper. It's a beautiful read. It was crafted by the most intelligent, most hardworking people I've ever known in my life. Sana po marami rin po kayong matutunan sa ating shaping paper. Everything I'm discussing is in the shaping paper, so it's a published document by the Department of Education that truly acknowledges our support to the use of mother tongue. Ayan po. So right here on the screen, you will find the shifting big ideas. Also in the shaping paper, you will find the language curriculum framework. So that's different from the language framework because the language framework that I discussed a while ago tells us the story of how all of the languages in education are connected to one another, right? In the language curriculum framework, that is a bit more specific because it tells us what the curriculum aims for and how the curriculum aims to do what it aims for. Okay? And at the heart of that language curriculum framework are what we call the big ideas. I'm sure that in the past years or so, this is one of the things that is continuously prevalent in social media, no? Isa sa mga buzzwords ng DepEd, ito pong ito pong big ideas. Now, the big ideas, simply put, is what we would like our learners to learn even beyond basic education. And you will find that in the languages, okay? So not just in English, but also in Filipino, in the mother tongue subjects, you will find that the big ideas, they are dynamic. They're not static. So this is a very special feature of the curriculum, okay? The big ideas are literacy, of course, the ability to read and write, language, or your formal knowledge about the structure of language, how to use the language, your knowledge about language. And then we have text, your knowledge of how to produce and consume different text types, not just narrative, but also informational text types. And this is also gearing towards preparing students for academic text writing. Okay, so why did I say it's special? Unlike in other learning areas, our big ideas, they are dynamic. They shift every time the learner progresses across the learning continuum. So right here in Key Stage 1, you will find that the biggest circle is literacy. Okay? But we all know that in the process of teaching and learning literacy, language and text could not be detached. All of these big ideas are always interconnected, but there has to be a certain focus. Because one of the things that we found when we reviewed the curriculum for 3 years, tatlong taon po naming pabalik-balik, binasa lahat ng 3,120 learning competencies in the 2016 English Curriculum Guide. We found that there was a very heavy focus on grammar. Grade 1 pa lang, obsessed na yung curriculum sa grammar. Okay? And I know that grammar is very important. It's very important. We're all language educators here. We know the importance of grammar. But in Key Stage 1, grammar should not yet be the focus. Although grammar would come naturally, the focus should be on meaning making. And meaning making will be developed if we aim for literacy formation and development. So in the first key stage, we aim for literacy. We want our students to learn how to read and write. And this is made evident not just in the learning domains. Makikita niyo po yung ating learning domains ay literacy focus. So we have phonological awareness, we have vocabulary, we have comprehension. All of the different literacy components are focused on in our curriculum guide. But there are also aspects of grammar, so that's where language comes in. Text serves as a vehicle towards literacy formation and development. And then, by the end of Key Stage 1, once we've already developed basic literacy skills among our students, we now shift. So pagdating po ng grade 4 or Key Stage 2 until that ends in grade 6, the focus of the curriculum now becomes language. Now that learners already know how to read, in Key Stage 2, they will read in order to learn. So this is where our focus now becomes communicative competence. We want our learners to understand that, okay, grammar is important, okay, there are norms in the process of using a language, etc. But again, literacy and text are still present, despite the fact that we focus on language as our major or key big idea in Key Stage 2. And finally, once our learners have developed a higher level of literacy, by then, ang ating goal po ay applied and critical literacy. By then, they should also have some sort of communicative competence in the target language. By Key Stage 3, they should be ready to engage with different types of texts. So we have narrative text. We have different forms of literature. We have different literary eras. We have a focus on literature in different geographical areas. For example, in grade 7, that's Philippine literature. In grade 8, we have Afro-Asian literature. Grade 9, Anglo-American. Grade 10, world literature. But in Key Stage 3, you will find that narrative text will only comprise 30% of the total text types that the kids are, or the learners are engaged to. Okay? The majority of the text types that we want our learners to read and write is more informative and more academic. Okay? This is why we find that when we crafted the third key stage curriculum guide, it was a little bit challenging. You will really feel the elevation of skills because we want our learners to be ready for senior high school and to be ready for higher education. And what's the key to senior high school and higher education? We want them to write academic texts. And so in Key Stage 3, you will find that the learning competencies in the curriculum guide, they focus on helping our learners develop the ability to not just understand, not just consume, but also produce different text types. And so at the end of Key Stage 3, our goal is to make learners multi-literate. Okay? So this is the context of the whole English curriculum, also the language curriculum. You will find that Filipino also follows this. The mother tongue curriculum guides also support this. This is how we envision our kids to develop the big ideas. So at the end of the whole spectrum, we have learners who are literate. We have learners who have communicative competence. We have learners who can consume and produce different types of text. And pinakamahalaga po sa akin, there is an appreciation of your own culture and the culture of others. Ayun po.
Thank you so much, Miss Ayet. Ayan na-cover na ni Miss Ayet yung big ideas from K to 12. And I think nakita natin kung ano yung expectations in terms of English language teaching. But how do we use the local languages? How do we use the students' linguistic repertoire? Kasi nga, we're teaching bilingual, multilingual students, di ba? In the process. And I think this time naman, si Doc Marian ang kakausapin natin. So, let's now focus on how English is taught given this information about the Matatag curriculum. Ang isa sa mga nababanggit na tool, pedagogical tool, di ba, sa shaping paper is translanguaging. Ano ba talaga ang translanguaging? Marami sa inyo siguro narinig na kami pag-usapan to, but many of you may still be confused or do not have any idea at all, di ba, kung ano ang translanguaging. So, Doc Marian, paki-explain naman, what is translanguaging?
Okay, so before that, Doc Cheche, if I may, no, I'd like to react lang to what Miss Ayat said. We in the English department of Ateneo and myself, we're actually very happy with the Matatag curriculum because it foregrounds, because this is what we have been advocating for. It foregrounds the role of the mother tongue in teaching English. Before kasi the Matatag curriculum, actually, yung papers namin, ang recommendation is always that we hope that DepEd will consider translanguaging. So we have been recommending the use of translanguaging, advocating the use of translanguaging in the teaching of English. And so that's why when the Matatag curriculum came out, we were very happy that it's mentioned more than, I don't know, more than 10 times in the curriculum. So we had to count. Talagang it's been foregrounded, no? And so that's one. We're very happy with the Matatag curriculum and how it foregrounds the mother tongue in English language teaching. So to go back to the question of Doc Cheche, what is translanguaging? Translanguaging is really the ability of multilingual speakers to shuttle between languages, and it treats the languages of multilingual speakers as part of a repertoire. So parang we look at, in trans-languaging, we look at all the languages as being part of siguro, gawin na natin a container, a drum na lang. Kunyari may drum tayo in our heads, and nandun lahat yung languages. So when we talk about trans-languaging, we draw the language or languages that are relevant in making meaning, in creating meaning in certain pedagogical, in certain communicative circumstances. So from a trans-languaging perspective, the students' mother tongues are resources. And then this is something that Miss Ayet emphasized a while back, no? The mother tongue is a resource in the learning of another language and in the learning of other content. So yun lang. That's what we want to emphasize. And when we talk about trans-languaging as a pedagogical approach, okay, it's when teachers recognize this ability of multilingual. So when you say na trans-languaging as a pedagogical approach, the teachers recognize that number one, the students have various languages. Hindi lang yan English, hindi lang yan Filipino. May mga mother tongues yan. And pwedeng gamitin lahat yan in learning. So that's basically what trans-languaging is.
Okay, so given that trans-languaging can be used as a tool, it's a pedagogical tool nga to teach English. How does it work specifically, Doc Marian? Pag nagtuturo na tayo ng English. So
Okay.
can you give us a sample scenario of what an English classroom looks like using trans-languaging?
Okay. So again, when you talk about trans-languaging as a pedagogical approach, it's enabling the students to use, gumagano ako parati kasi andyan yung languages natin inside. It's enabling the students to use their entire linguistic repertoire in carrying tasks and activities. Now, in the research that I conducted, it's part of a bigger research, and it's an article that I published. I observed how the teachers used trans-languaging in teaching English. So, iba-iba yan. You can use code switching, translation, metalinguistic explanation, or comparison. So we know what code switching is, we know what translation is. Metalinguistic explanation, it's when for example, you're teaching, let's say, verbs, okay? And then you use the mother tongue to, di ba, in your Filipino class, inaral nyo tong verbs, pandiwa, di ba? So yon. So that's a way of using trans-languaging. But I just want to emphasize, Dr. Cheche, na kasi this is one of the questions that we often, i-anticipate ko na yung question. This is one of the questions that we often get na paano yan yung output nila, trans-languaging? So anong language yung output nila? Trans-languaging is a tool. Okay? It's a tool for learning, and it's not the end goal. Okay? So that's what we want to emphasize muna. So these are spontaneous use of trans-languaging. Now, may I continue? May I talk about pedagogical trans-languaging? The more
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Doc Marian.
And most of us, and I want to emphasize, most of us use this already. We trans-language, we just call it in different terms, and I'll explain later kung bakit. Some people would say, code switching lang naman yun, bakit tinawag pa ng trans-languaging? Yeah, I'll explain later what the difference between the two is. Okay, later. So, when we when we code switch, when we teach in the classroom and we want the students to understand the lesson, we translate, ano ba yung, in one of my classroom observations then, she was focusing on chicken. So, and she used, ano gani ang chicken sa aton? So she was using Hiligaynon to explain what chicken was because she knew that students couldn't understand. So yun yung mga spontaneous translanguaging. But there's also pedagogical translanguaging, for which, and if I may just shamelessly plug it, meron kaming workshop on that in September, pedagogical translanguaging. But I'll give you a preview of what it is. Pedagogical translanguaging is planned. Okay, it's planned by the teacher inside the classroom to refer to the use of different languages for input or output or to other planned strategies where students can use their various resources. For example, in teaching read, so kumbaga, when you talk about pedagogical translanguaging, it's really designed in the lesson. It's part of the lesson. And in the workshop, if you will attend the workshop, we'll share with you strategies. But I'll just give you examples. So for example, in teaching reading comprehension, diba, we know that students often get stuck on a particular word in English. And if we provide a space or an activity for them to use their linguistic resources to make sense of what they're reading, it will help them develop the skill of reading. Okay? In teaching writing, in one of the studies that I conducted, this is the one that was just recently published, the teacher deliberately used translanguaging as part of the lesson. And so she asked her students, oh, you can in the brainstorming stage, in the pre-writing stage of your paper, this is in the university level, in Ateneo. In the pre-writing stage, you can use whatever language that you want. And then when I interviewed the students, they said that they were able to sort their ideas better. They were able to really express what they wanted to express because they were allowed to use translanguaging when they were brainstorming. So these are the things that we can do in the language classroom that would encourage translanguaging.
Thank you so much, Doc Marian. That's a very helpful example. Please remember, it's pedagogical translanguaging. So it has to be deliberate, purposeful. Kagaya ng sinabi ni Doc Marian, hindi siya anything goes. So dapat kasama talaga siya sa pagpaplano natin when we sit down to plan our lessons. So Doc Marian, may isa pang question. So gagamitin nga natin ang translanguaging and may example kang binigay kanina. But doon sa mga hindi pa masyadong convinced, ano ba talagang benefits ng translanguaging in teaching English?
Okay. The people we want, the people we want to know about this are not in this webinar. Sabi kasi walang research. But actually, if I may, madaming research already that has shown how translanguaging practices are useful in the classroom. So for example, may mga studies, yung ating mga faculty in the English department and PhD students, translanguaging practices show that it served as a mediating tool between and among the teacher, the students, and their respective tasks. So may studies na nagpapakita na it really helps in facilitating learning in the classroom. And then meron ding studies that show how translanguaging helps students, and like I told you kanina, it helps students comprehend texts better. It helps students write better drafts. In fact, meron din, if translanguaging is used in feedback, there's a greater possibility for the students to use the feedback of the teacher in improving the paper. So, ang daming research actually. Pwede nating i-share dun sa mga nagsasabi na there's no research saying na the mother tongue is useful in the language classroom.
So, Actually, di ba, Google lang nila yung word na translanguaging. Ang dami-dami ng lalabas na research, lalo na kung Google Scholar ang gagamitin nila. And um, kaya nga, may basis ang paggamit ng translanguaging kasi
But,
it's evidence-based, it's
mm,
research-based.
mm.
Doc Marian.
Kung mag-share ng studies, kung kailangan nila, sige, I'll share.
Yes, pwede. So, yan ba yung reason, Doc Marian, kung bakit translanguaging is relevant in teaching in English in multilingual settings?
That's one, no? Kasi nga, studies have already shown that it facilitates learning. It helps, and I want to go back to what Miss Ayat said a while ago. It helps students create meaning, di ba? And wala lang time, pero if you attend the workshop, we can explain to you the theoretical basis of that and the need to use the mother tongue in teaching not just the literacy skills but also the other languages. Pero sa akin, translanguaging pedagogy is a central component in the struggle for social justice and equity in education. And I think Ms. Ayat talked about this a while ago, about recognizing students' own culture, di ba? And that's what translanguaging is all about, because you are recognizing what the students bring inside the classroom. Kasi pag sinabi mo, hindi, English and Filipino lang tayo sa classroom na to, hindi naman, yung mga estudyante na ang kanilang lengguwahe, hindi English and Filipino. Ito ako, nagsasalita ako ng Hiligaynon, ng Kinaray. Why are you asking me to leave this outside the classroom? Parang it's not validating or recognizing who our students are when we tell them, you cannot use the mother tongue in the classroom. And this is, and I just want to just emphasize this, no? According to UNESCO's General Conference Resolution 12, for multilingual students to participate globally and nationally, they need to go through multilingual education. So, kumbaga, wag monolingual. Kasi nga, alam mo naman na multicultural tong mga estudyante. So, bakit babalik tayo sa monolingual practice? So that for me is, I think, the more important reason for translanguaging. It's for social justice and equity in education. I'm sorry, I'm so passionate about it.
Oh, of course. And because of what you said, Doc Marian, and I invite Miss Ayat na rin to give her reaction. Pwede, because of that nga, no, can we say that English-only policy is a form of oppression?
Definitely. I know that some might find it ironic, but don't you teach English? Yeah, but you don't have to be oppressive naman, even if you're teaching English. You can be fair,
inclusive
when you're teaching English. And to do that, you have to first recognize that our students are multilingual and multicultural. And so we cannot teach them in a monolingual way.
Miss Ayat?
Natakot po ako sa tanong kasi baka makota ako. But yes, I agree 100% with Miss Marian. I would also like to invite our participants right here. If you take a look at the appendices of our curriculum guide, you will find there one approach just to support Dr. Marian's pedagogical translanguaging, the one that is purposive, the one that is planned. You will find that in one of our appendices, we provided an MT-based lesson exemplar for teaching English. So teaching English does not have to be oppressive. In fact, the beauty in teaching English is you get to appreciate one culture and at the same time realize that, oh, my culture is just as beautiful, my culture is just as colorful. And in the process of going through this journey of learning a new language, you also rediscover your own. And that's what we want to happen inside the classroom. The problem is, susundutan ko lang po ng konting realidad because this is also one of the comments ng mga field implementers sa amin pong sa national office and those in higher education institutions, that we are all very theoretical. Lahat daw po ng sinasabi natin, of course, they all look good on paper, they all look good on theory, but in the field, it's a lot more messy. And we acknowledge that. That's why we're creating solutions. But for you to go back to a solution that has already been proven ineffective, that is just, we're going back in the wrong direction. We're going the wrong way. We have to move forward. Isulong natin to kasi tama naman po. It's just a matter of, tweaking the implementation a bit so that what's in theory, the beautiful thing about theory, is translated into beautiful practice as well. Hindi yung detach sila sa isa't isa.
Thank you so much, Miss Ayet. And because of this, no, I'm thinking like the director now of ASELT. Because of this discussion na napakaganda, and nakikita ko kasi yung mga messages kung pwede daw bang makakuha ng recording nito. I think for everyone to have access, we will find a way to put the recording up in our YouTube channel para mabalikan ninyo, makita nyo kung ano talaga yung beauty ng teaching English in a multilingual classroom. Okay? And of course, understanding better what the matatag curriculum is. So sige, promise yan. Hingi tayo ng way para, gagawa tayo ng way para ma-put up ang ating webinar ngayon for everyone to see and access through our ASELT YouTube channel. Okay? Sige. So, wag na mag-worry yung mga nagtatanong dyan na nasa chat box. Ngayon, total, pinag-uusapan na natin ang mga questions nyo sa chat box. I think it's time to look at what our audience members have in mind. So, Miss Margo, maybe you can help us. May mga questions ba tayo dyan?
Yes, Doc Che, thank you very much po sa ating plenary speakers. One of the questions we got from the chat box is from Ateneo de Naga, Sir Paulo. Are the lawmakers aware of this framework? I think he's referring to the language curriculum framework. It is glaring to see that their Senate Bill number 2457 runs contrary to the framework.
Gusto nga sana natin mag-invite bago magsalita si Miss Ayet. Kaso wala naman tayo munang means. Total, meron tayong recording. Ano kayang magandang gawin, Miss Ayet? Please respond.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Sana po hindi magsisi yung aming undersecretary, si Yusek Gina Gonong, dahil ako po yung pinadala niya rito. And I am known for my candor. When you ask me something, walang filter yan. So, here's the unfiltered answer to that question. Okay. Before a bill gets passed, it goes through many stages. And I want to give credit to Senator Win Gatchalian because I think he spent more than 2 years listening to the field implementers, listening to experts in higher education institutions, listening to us from the central office about what to do best about MTBMLE because we know that there's a problem. Our most conclusive evidence is that provided by the PID study, which shows us that there's nothing wrong with the policy. What's wrong is the implementation because the policy was misinterpreted. Unfortunately, that's not a good enough answer for Senate. Okay, and Senator Win, in his endeavor to appease, both parties. Kasi sa totoo naman po, if you ask around in DepEd, even our own field implementers, they don't understand MTBMLE or they don't really see the practicality of it being used in their respective regions, divisions, and schools. And so during hearings, magugulat kami, may teacher, may regional director pa na hindi rin pala sang-ayon sa MTBMLE. It's very disheartening especially for someone who is as passionate as Doc Marian as regards this program. Mahal na mahal natin itong programang ito dahil alam natin ito ang tama. But we have to give credit to Senator Win because this is actually the most that he can do in terms of compromising both stand, yung mga anti-MTBMLE and pro-MTBMLE. And so you will find in that bill, there is a provision that if you are part of a monolingual community or part of a community whose lingua franca, and therefore, a lot of the learners also use that language, you are free to use MTBMLE. Yun na po that's the most that we can do. Kasi talagang they are hell-bent on discontinuing MTBMLE. And this is the most that we can do given the circumstances. And I also hope that kasi nababasa ko po yung stand ng UP. Of course, other universities also have a stand on this, and I know that they disagree with this bill. This is not what we want in DepEd. This is not what we want in the central office, or this is not what I want as VCD. Kasi I cannot speak on behalf of the others. Ano po. This is definitely not what I want as focal person of the mother tongue. I am pro MTBMLE all the way. I am pro doing what is right in terms of rectifying how the implementation should be. I am pro keeping the theory, and I am pro keeping the policy as it is. But the DepEd, and this is a difficult pill to swallow, but education is political. We are driven by the decisions of people like Senator Win Gatchalian and all of his colleagues. But I want to give credit to Senator Win because this is the best that he can do to make sure that our learners in monolingual communities and indigenous communities are properly accommodated. So hindi po natin sila pababayaan. We are not going to force them to learn in Filipino. We're not going to force them to learn in English kung hindi pa sila handa. And we will make sure that if ever this bill gets passed, if it's translated into policy, we're going to create implementing guidelines that will be friendly to learners in monolingual communities, in indigenous communities, to learners who are part of the population whose mother tongue or first language is neither Filipino or English. And I just want to share one of the key data that really drove this bill is, if you take a look at the census, I think the latest is 2020, you will find that almost 40% of the population reported Tagalog as the home language. And therefore, you have 40% of our student population being bilingual. And what does that mean? Ang nangyari po, in the previous version of our curriculum, if you're in a Tagalog-speaking region, you have mother tongue as a subject, and then you have Filipino as a subject, inuulit yung tinuturo. That's one of the problems. And that's one of the major problems for Tagalog-speaking learners. So you have a redundancy in the school offering. And that's what this bill is trying to address. I hope that if this bill ever gets passed on as a law, yung mga regions and divisions, I hope that they become honest in reporting na hindi naman kasi lahat talaga English ang sinasalita. A lot of them, if you take a look at the recordings of the hearings, they would say, oh, because of YouTube, because of social media, all of our learners know how to speak English. That is a sweeping generalization. Not everyone knows how to speak English. And we've seen that. We've seen that in far-flung communities. We've seen that in indigenous communities. Paano naman sila kung magiging ganon ang ire-report ng ating field implementers? So I hope that, if field implementers are present here, yung mga nasa division offices, regional offices, if you're a school head, if a learner reports that this language is his or her mother tongue, let's acknowledge that. Huwag natin baliwalain dahil lang majority nagtatagalog naman o majority nag-English. So, the straight answer to that question is yes. The lawmakers are aware of this framework. In fact, even before we published the shaping paper, sila po yung unang nakabasa niyan. So, this bill, if ever it gets passed, the best that we can do is to accommodate the learners whose mother tongue is not English and Filipino. We're going to be creating a separate policy or a set of implementing guidelines for them. Ayun po ang mangyayari.
Thank you so much. Can we give Miss Ayet a round of applause for that? Magka-heart ako for that explanation. Thank you for reassuring us, di ba? Masarap yung feeling na may ganong assurance na you will support, we will support, continue to support the implementation of MTBMLE. And nakakasad lang na as you mentioned, Miss Ayet, even the field implementers and yung mga regional directors, some, not all, di ba? But there were some who do not support. Kasi we have to remember that one of the features of an effective MTB-MLE program is yung support from the community. Hindi magiging effective ang MTB-MLE program kung walang support ng community. So, sana we get to that point when everybody understands and appreciates the value of the program. Okay, may question pa ba tayo? Miss Margo?
Doc Che,
Chat box?
there's 3 questions in the chat box, and there are also people who would like to unmute to ask their questions directly. I'll start with Miss Michelle's question from Ateneo de Manila. Does DepEd even have an English-only policy? Is there an actual document that stipulates an English-only policy for schools?
No, there is no English-only policy for schools.
Ayan, clear na po ha.
Yes.
Salamat sa question, Michelle.
I'd like to add, Doc Che, the Senate bill is not yet passed, and therefore it's not yet a law. And therefore, we are observing status quo, and status quo is provided by RA 10533 or the Enhanced Basic Education Act. Right there, you will find MTB-MLE. So the program is still enacted, is still being enacted. Unless this bill is published and enacted into law, only then will MTB-MLE be rescinded. Okay, so right now, we still acknowledge the mother tongues of our children. We still use the mother tongues of our learners as medium of teaching and learning.
Thank you, Miss Ayet. Miss Margo, go ahead.
Thank you, Miss Ayet. Another one from USLS, Sir Jobert. What about using nonverbal forms of the language? Is it also part of translanguaging? If so, can teachers then intentionally integrate them into the teaching of English?
Thank you for that question. No, because yes, the short answer to that is yes. Because when we talk about translanguaging, it's not just the mixing of codes, but it's also a mixing of modes. It's also, lalo na yung, if we look at Kanagaraja's translanguaging, we allow the meshing. I think that's what he uses, code meshing. So when you talk about code meshing, it's not just the language, but also the different modes of expressing meaning. So that's what translanguaging is. In my, but this is in the university level, kasi we have one task, yung personal response paper. So when students talk about their own experiences, and I have a Filipino-Chinese student, and there's an experience in Chinese that she could not translate in English. And so she had to write the characters, and I allowed her to write the characters in Chinese, but then she just wrote the translation in English, but it's not the exact translation kasi nga walang exact word for it. Parang she approximated the meaning of that word in English inside parentheses. So that's also a form of translanguaging. Yes.
Thank you, Doc Marian. This one po is very interesting because this is something we also raise in our MA classes. It's from DepEd teacher May. She says, there are indicators in the classroom observation tool that observe the teacher's appreciation, acknowledgement, and utilization of the student's mother tongue. However, we get reprimanded when there is a lot of mother tongue in our Filipino in our English classroom, especially when teaching students with beginning language proficiency. How do we make a compromise in this scenario as a language model for English while also acknowledging the mother tongue as the learner's literacy and language resource?
I think Miss Ayet may want to answer that kasi medyo concern nila sa DepEd.
So the concern is that there is a stipulation that there has to be appreciation of the mother tongue. And yet when you use the mother tongue, you're reprimanded. Ang solusyon po natin dyan, i-educate po natin yung ating school head as regards the interpretation of the actual rubric of assessment for teachers. But this is what we wanted to rectify. In fairness naman po sa ating mga field implementers, ang dami na nilang ginagawa. So I'm sure that their plate is full. They can no longer read all of the policies from the DepEd Central Office. But this is what we want to emphasize. You have to read the shaping paper because the shaping paper reshapes how we know the old curriculum. K-12 in itself is already history being made in the Philippines as we advance towards not just introduction of senior high school, but also the introduction of MTBMLE. But it lacked in terms of how exactly are the field implementers expected to implement this. Ayun po yung nagkulang. And so, yun po yung pupunan natin dito po sa matatag curriculum and the shaping paper. Okay, so in the shaping paper, it is very clear that translanguaging is a part of the language classroom. It's a part of the teaching and learning process. And so, if that is officially considered, okay, and it is officially considered as of now because it's part of the DepEd's published documents, that has to also be recognized as part of practice inside the classroom. And so wala kayong mali at hindi kayo dapat mag-adjust. Ang dapat mag-adjust ay yung perception ng ating mga school heads in terms of evaluating you.
Thank you, Miss Ayet.
That's a
Smile na
very
lang ako doon sa sagot nyo.
clarification.
Correct.
Same,
Yes,
Doc.
meron pa. Yeah? Miss Margo, meron pa?
Meron pong gusto mag-unmute, Doc Che, si John Rick from our MAELLT also. I'm gonna ask you to unmute, John Rick.
Hello po. Good morning, Doc Marian, Doc Che, and Miss Ayet. First of all, thank you po for sharing with us your insights on the importance of translingual practice and the use of mother tongue in teaching English. I definitely agree, and I personally am advocating for it as well, thanks to the influence po of Doc Marian and the professors in the program. But anyway po, I think when I was reading the comments of the Senate on bringing a halt to the MTB MLE program, I think their primary issue po is on the institutionalization of the program. For one, I read from Dr. Carlo Marquis that the implementation is being limited by the centralized structure of our education governance. And even Congressman Romulo said that not everything should be translated into policy. I think what they're trying to veer on is perhaps teachers can still utilize the MTB MLE program and translingual practice in the classroom, but maybe we just let the teachers do what they want. I think their concern is more of it is hard to try to come up with a policy that is centralized and can be encompassing to all. I think one of their concerns is that there's lack of language materials as well in the mother tongue, and that the MTB MLE program, according to them, covers only 19 major languages, in contrary to the 245 languages that we have in the country. I think these are the criticisms so far po, and I'm thinking about your thoughts po on these criticisms, and where do you think can we go from these issues po? Thank you.
Okay, medyo marami po yun, sir? Pwede pong paki-chat. Joke lang. Sige po. Isa-isahin po natin, sir? We acknowledge that there is something wrong with implementation. We acknowledge that the policy right now is not as comprehensive as it could be. But there is something in the policy that a lot of our lawmakers and a lot of the field implementers fail to notice or usually disregard. And in that policy, we emphasize, we underline the importance of contextualization. Because a program as big as MTB-MLE cannot be encapsulated by one single document that emanates from the central office. The DepEd is simply too big. We have almost 1 million in workforce. We have hundreds of thousands of students, all undergoing the same program, all with different individual learning needs, all with different languages. Okay? We have to make sure that all of these languages are recognized because if we don't, we're not being inclusive. Okay? But if we do, we're being chaotic. So whatever we do, there's always something to fault DepEd, right? But the key here is, I'm not washing my hands of that. We know that there's something wrong with the policy, and that's why the Matatag curriculum is our step towards making sure that all of these loopholes in the policy are being addressed. Okay? But there's something that is out of our hands, and that is contextualization. We cannot contextualize for all of the divisions. We cannot contextualize for all of the regions. What we do in the central office is provide a set of guidelines that is contextualizable. Okay? And so, I would like to cite one region, for example. INCAR, which is one of the most linguistically diverse regions in the Philippines, they reported that their mother tongue is Ilocano, na hindi naman pala totoo. So ano pong nangyari? When they reported that their mother tongue is Ilocano, the resources that the DepEd procured for them and developed for them was in Ilocano because that was what's reported. Okay? So I'm not saying that, oy, mali pala yung CAR. I'm not saying that. Okay? But I'm saying, I'm giving you a glimpse as regards the mammoth of the problem that we are currently facing with MTBMLE. Napakahirap niya po. And so for the central office to make sure that all of these teeny tiny details are all covered, hindi po namin kaya yon dahil tao din po kami. At, okay, hindi po namin kaya yon. And that is why we empower. That's the term in the policy document. We empower the divisions, the schools, the regions to do what they can in terms of contextualization. Ngayon, babawi po ako sa CAR, ano? In the same region where that problem is evident, you will find that there are schools who cater to their indigenous communities. Ang liit lang ng community nila. I think tens or hundreds lang po ang speakers. But because there are kids who speak this certain language, I'm sorry, I forgot what the language is, but when we did our immersion in this region, nakakatuwa pong makita na yung mismong school, supported by the LGU, supported by their division office, they were able to produce books, they were able to produce materials that will help implement MTB-MLE. And so what am I saying? MTB-MLE is a double-edged sword. If you don't implement it properly, you're not going to reap the results that it promises. But if you do, then you're going to see progress. That is why in all of the hearings that we attend, in all of the position papers that we write, we always cite ano po, yung unang-una, yung pioneer ng MTB-MLE, which is Lubuagan. If you Google Lubuagan, napakaliit na community lang nito. And yet, they excelled. They gave us very promising results because their implementation of MTB-MLE was excellent. And so I am not washing my hands of our responsibility in the central office. But contextualization is something that we can no longer do for you. Okay? It is something that they have to do. And Senate is aware of that. Alam po nila yan. Ayun po. Sana po may trabaho pa ako sa Monday. Ano po?
I want to add lang to what Miss Ayat said, no? And what she's also emphasizing is the importance of the agency of the teachers. And you can only have that agency if you understand what the curriculum is and if you understand the principles underlying the curriculum and I guess the pedagogical approach. And I want to commend Miss Ayat for saying na contextualization is very important na you're on I will just reassure you, you're on the right track. Yeah. I'm affirming you. I'm affirming you're on the right track. And I think it's up to school heads and siguro yung mga organizations like ASEL to help teachers, to empower teachers, to help teachers feel empowered so that they'll find their agency na pwede niyong gawin ito na hindi naman kailangan na kung ano yung nakasulat dito sa papel, yun lang ang gagawin nyo. And that's why we have teacher training programs, and then you have also your training programs. It's for you to understand what it's about and so that you'll feel empowered to do what needs to be done in your particular context. So, yun din yung purpose ng translanguaging. Kasi, for example, no, some people would say na, ah, eh, English yung mother tongue ng mga estudyante ko. Di, go! Use that as your medium of instruction. Hindi naman, ang problema lang kasi is kung and this is my beef. I'm sorry, but this is my beef with the Senate bill. Kasi it declares na English and Filipino lang ang gagamitin sa classrooms na multilingual, which for me is not fair, is unjust. Na hindi lahat English ang first language or Filipino ang first language. Multilingual nga yung mga estudyante. Tapos gagamitin mong medium of instruction, English or Filipino. So that's what we're worried about, at least in the English department and in ASEL. And I'm sure, because this is what the result of our research, na DepEd has no policy about English only. But there are schools with English-only policies. DepEd schools to, ah. Pero anong nangyayari sa classroom? So kahit alam ni teacher na English-only policy yung school niya, nagta-translanguage siya sa klase. Kasi alam niya yun yung dun matututo yung mga estudyante. Pero nagigilty siya. Kasi hindi ko dapat ginagawa to. Kasi sabi ng principal, dapat English only. Okay? So, and we want to empower teachers so that they don't feel guilty about being just to their students. So yun yung ano namin. You don't have to feel guilty about wanting to be fair to your students. You're just contextualizing your lesson.
Thank you so much. So lahat tayo very passionate about this, no? Yung last input ni Miss Ayet, very impassioned na for sure magkakaroon ka pa ng trabaho by Monday kasi mag-o-offer ang ASELT na mention na rin naman ni Doc Marian na siguro since we're all in this together, we can put together something like this for field implementors. Yung targeted siya. Since kayo naman na nakakalam sa DepEd, Miss Ayat, kung sino o paano, how to reach out to them or how to reach them, then maybe we can talk about that so that we can continue this conversation. Diba? Well, as it is, happy na tayo because we have over 300 people who came in today. Despite the rescheduling and it's a Saturday morning. Time check lang, it's 10:20 and I think we can accommodate one more question. Miss Margo?
Yes, Doc Che. Can we also accommodate one si Teacher May po na nag-raise hand and then one in the chat box?
Sige lang. Yeah.
Sige po. Sabi po ni Sir Rafi, the initial version of the English shaping paper contains information about Philippine English, but the final version changed and no longer carries the construct. Can Ms. Ayet enlighten the audience about the process that was implemented in revising the English shaping paper from the initial to the revised or final version?
Thank you for that difficult question. So originally, we truly intended for Philippine English to be acknowledged. Okay? We wanted the shaping paper to be something that mimics the reality in the field and mimics what is truly happening in the country. We have our own variety of English, and that is Philippine English. The unfortunate thing about Philippine English is that, and this is according to our superiors, okay? So despite me and the rest of our team pushing for acknowledgement of Philippine English, there is no publication or not enough publication that would tell us what exactly is Philippine English. I know that that's not true because our decisions are guided by literature. But when it came to the specifics, halimbawa po, okay? Kasi there is always going to be a debate or there's always going to be a clash between what we know in theory and what is actually happening in the field, okay? Let's say a child with a very heavy Tagalog accent reads a text, reads a text out loud. Okay? Tapos yung mga F niya nagiging P and vice versa. Okay? What else are markers of Philippine English? Ayun lang po ang maisip ko at the top of my head. How are we going to assess that? Especially if, for example, we are now at the second key stage where we look for or where our focus is on the language aspect of the curriculum. And we know when it comes to focusing on language, we have to be strict or we have to adhere to the structures of language, the norms of language, the rules of language. How lenient are we gonna be when it comes to students manifesting these signs of Philippine English? And so, when we were asked that question, ang sabi po namin, if it's a simple interaction with the teacher, kapag po yung sa classroom lang, oral lang, it's not gonna be, graded, it's not going to be an exam, we can allow it. We can allow these minor lapses as long as meaning is not compromised. Because at the end of the day, ano po tayo meaning over form, right? But what if this is manifested? What if this is also relayed in outputs in terms of assessment? Ano nang magiging guidelines natin para sa mga guru dyan? Are we going to allow it? Or are we not going to allow it? If we allow it, what are certain utterances that are acceptable? What is unacceptable? And when that discussion came about, we in the DepEd Central Office were not equipped with the answers. Ano yung pwede nating tanggapin at ano yung hindi natin pwedeng tanggapin? Because this in itself is going to entail another round of study, another round of workshops that will hopefully, makasama po namin sina Doc Cheche at Doc Marian, that will help us provide rubric. What is acceptable Philippine English and what is not? Lalo na meron tayong mga grammar Nazi in the DepEd field, na ay, hindi yan pwede para sa akin. Hindi ko yan tatanggapin. Okay? And when you reach a certain age, medyo mahirap na pong baguhin ang pag-iisip ng mga tao, And so they're close-minded when it comes to this. And so, at the end of the day, what I'm driving at is, at the end of the day, when it came to providing a more specific set of guidelines as to how we're gonna be accepting Philippine English, we could not provide that guidelines. Ano yung acceptable? Ano yung hindi pwede? Ano yung intelligible pa? Ano yung unintelligible na? Mutual intelligibility is something that we cover for multiple terms at the end of the term wala naman tayong conclusive na guidelines, okay? So this is something that we could not provide right now. Okay? So even though we want Philippine English to be highlighted as part of the shaping paper, we could not provide the specific guidelines that will help teachers truly acknowledge and truly recognize what is acceptable Philippine English and what is bordering mali na talaga yung structure ng bata. Okay? So that's the story behind Philippine English initially appearing in the shaping paper and then it finally being let go. But we are very clear in the shaping paper that when we teach and when we focus on these different big ideas, we are clear about our goal. So halimbawa po, in the first key stage, our goal is to allow children to be able to come up with meaning and comprehend meaning. In the second key stage, we want them to know about the language. Hopefully, in that key stage, in key stage 2, they also get to have a realization that, okay, so this variety of English is standard American English. And the English that I'm speaking and the English that others are using is Philippine English. Doon siya magkakaroon ng awareness kasi ang focus nga natin is on language. And then you're exposed to text. In grade 7, you're exposed to Philippine English texts. Yung mga sinulat ni Jose Rizal and other authors, mga sinulat ni Nick Joaquin, etc. And then you're exposed to other types of Englishes. And so, hopefully, in that whole spectrum, even though our curriculum documents are not explicit about it, there is an underlying lesson, okay, that learners learn about the different varieties of English and that my variety of English is Philippine English and that's okay. Ayun po.
Thank you so much, Miss Ayet. Napaisip na naman ako kung anong pwede natin gawin in the future. Siguro, Doc Marian and Miss Ayet, no, we can have another round of discussion on world Englishes and Philippine English Philippine Englishes in the context of teaching English in the Philippines. Di ba? Siguro, sige, hanap tayo ng time for that. As if naman wala pa tayong ginagawa, no? Yes, Doc Marian.
Just wanted to again commend DepEd for because Ayat is saying for now so there's really the possibility in the future, no, for that to be accepted. And that's a call for you, Rafi, that you need to do some research and you have to do something to address the concerns of the DepEd kung bakit hindi nasama ang Philippine English for now. And then she's emphasizing, Miss Ayat is emphasizing for now. So, Rafi, may trabaho ka ha.
Okay, let's get to the last question. Sorry ha, kasi we have a few minutes left. So, Miss Margo?
Thank you po, Doc Che, Doc Marian, and Miss Ferriols. We have last si Teacher May from DepEd SDO Navotas. I'll ask you to unmute, ma'am.
Good morning po, Miss Che, Miss Marian, and Miss Ayet. I'm from SDO Navotas po, and I'm very happy to have this session, especially that we can have someone from the central office to present our voices in the field. We're happy po kami sa changes ng curriculum. It's not very new to us, but nasa stage po kami ng nanganganay pa lang. Since ilang weeks pa lang po namin ini-implement ang mga curriculum. There are actually 3 questions po na vinoice out ng mga taga SDO Navotas po. And happy ako na matanong ko rin ito sa inyo po. First of all po, nagtatanong po sila, what's the rationale behind starting with poetry po for the first quarter in grade 7 instead of prose? They had a confusion. Bakit dapat, di ba, prose muna kasi parang ang hirap agad abutin ng language na nasa poetry. That's the first one po. Second, we also notice po na masyado pong mabigat yung number of competencies in the 3rd and 4th quarter na nag-start lang kami ng 6 learning competencies ng 1st and 2nd quarter. What's the reasoning behind packing all of these competencies in the 3rd and 4th quarter? Given po sa 3rd quarter, hati pa rin po yung panahon dahil nandito rin po yung Christmas break. Pangatlo po, are we allowed to change the sequence of learning competencies? Tama po kayo na streamline yung competency, but when we get to see the lesson exemplars coming from the CO po, it started with rhythm and meter, when in fact, the first competency po is about conflict or types of conflict. Yun po yung 3 na legitimate na tanong po namin na na-raise din po namin nung nag-collaborative expertise din po kami. Ayun po.
Thank you for that question. Okay, so ma'am, iisa-isahin po natin The original English curriculum guide had a total number of 3,120 learning competencies. Inuwi niya po ang corona sa pinakamaraming learning competencies sa buong mundo. Right now, we only have 670 learning competencies. So to say that marami pa ring competencies, hindi ko na itutuloy yung sasabihin ko. Okay. So, I would like to disagree that there is still too many competencies. Second, we would like to emphasize that in the process of implementing or delivering our curriculum guide, hindi po yan tinitignan ng parang chronological ang pagkaka-introduce sa ating learning competencies. The learning competencies are not taught in isolation. Halimbawa, when you teach about rhyme and meter, you cannot teach that in one lesson plan, or you do not teach that first. Okay? So when you teach all of these learning competencies, they have to be integrated with one another. Halimbawa po, in the process of teaching, I can't think of Key Stage 3 samples. Let's take Key Stage 2 samples. Comprehending, or Key Stage 1 example, comprehending a narrative text. When you comprehend a narrative text and you have all of these different comprehension skills as sub-LCs of that bigger LC, you do not teach one sub-LC at a time. You can teach all of them nang sabay-sabay. Okay? That's why, if you take a look at the exemplar that we provided, you will find that almost all of the learning competencies are immediately introduced, because in the process of teaching one, you will find that inevitably, you will also be teaching the others. Pero, okay, if you take a look at Appendix 1 of our curriculum guide, how to use the new curriculum, we emphasize there that if the learning competencies cannot be taught together, hindi po natin pipilitin. Okay? That's how it is. We are detaching ourselves from the old version of the curriculum kung saan nakakahon kayo na in 1 week, ito lang yung learning competencies na dapat ninyong ituro at dapat matutunan ng mga bata, because that is unrealistic. And so, what we provided you with is simply a list of learning competencies that will allow you and the learner to attain the content and performance standards that we have set for 1 quarter. And how you deliver that is going to be up to the teacher. At ano ang pagbabatayan ng desisyon ng teacher? Learning needs. Kung ano yung pangangailangan ng bata. Okay? So, if you feel that, okay, this class generally needs this LC first, yun po muna ang ituturo ninyo. And again, in the process of teaching 1 LC, you will find that it's always intertwined with the others. You cannot teach 1 LC in isolation. Okay? That's how it goes. Now, the last question I think that I need to address is, bakit po nauna yung poetry? We were trying to mimic the structure of Key Stage 1. When you teach kids texts, you always start out with poetry. And so the curriculum guide writers, as approved by our resource persons, and as approved during the public review of our curriculum guides, there wasn't really any question as regards that move. Again, we wanted to mimic how Key Stage 1 learners engage with text. And so we want to show that, okay, if this is poetry in Key Stage 1, this is poetry in Key Stage 2. Ito naman po yung poetry in Key Stage 3. Generally, they're a lot shorter. They're a lot easier to comprehend. They're a lot easier to teach because ayun nga yung length. And then we move on to prose, which could be a bit more complex. If you feel that poetry is more complex than prose, then you can reorganize, because the way that the texts are laid out, dahil nauna ang poetry, edi definitely you're not going to introduce poems that are very difficult na, you know what I'm saying. We're giving you the autonomy to do what you can with the learning competencies that we provided. I'd like to close with this. At the end of the day, ang pakialam lang po namin yung standards, that you meet the standards. So at the end of quarter 1, these are the standards that we've laid out. How are you going to meet them as a teacher? The learning competencies there are simply suggestive. This is what we think, and this is what the general public thinks are the learning competencies that are needed in order to attain the standards. But as a teacher, you know better because you know your learners best. If your learner doesn't need a particular LC, wag mo na pong ituro, okay lang. As long as at the end of the day, we meet at the standards. Okay? Standards ang ating pagbabatayan. Because our curriculum is standards-based, the learning competencies were simply provided there to help the teachers unpack the standards. But they are not set in stone. They are flexible and you are given autonomy to do with it what you will. Ayun na po.
Thank you so much, Miss Ayet. And since nag-parting words na si Miss Ayet, Doc Marian, are you going to add anything else? Nag-concluding statement na si Miss Ayet?
I would like to invite everyone to attend our
May
workshop.
separate invitation tayo dyan mamaya.
English in multilingual
Yes.
settings. That's an online course, and pedagogical chant languaging. If you want to know more about how we really should be teaching English in a multicultural setting, then that's the way to go. Sa akin, if I may just if I need to have parting words, we're teachers, and our purpose as teachers is to educate students, and we have to do it fairly, justly. So social justice talaga yung aking what I want to emphasize. We want to be inclusive in our classroom. We don't want to exclude anyone.
Thank you, Doc Marian. And as a way to synthesize, since ang key constructs natin for this panel discussion are matatag curriculum and translanguaging, I think from the discussions, we can say that contextualization is the key for both translanguaging and understanding, unpacking, and implementing the matatag curriculum. So it's very difficult to end a discussion like this. Siguro magkakaroon tayo ng part 2, no? But that is all the time we have. So thank you for your engagement. Please stay on because we're still going to have the much awaited photo ops later, yung ang pinagkakahintay ng lahat. But we still have some announcements. But before that, please allow me now to show our appreciation for the contribution of Doc Marian and Ms. Ayet in this webinar. And first, well, please allow me to read the content of the certificate. This certificate of appreciation is given to Dr. Marian Rachel G. Perfecto. Thank you, Doc Marian. Let's give her a big round of applause for sharing her invaluable insights for the webinar on understanding the context of English language teaching in the Matatag curriculum given today, August 3, 2024, via Zoom, signed by me. Doc Marian, suking-suki. And this is our first timer, si Miss Ayet. Sana maging suki. Miss Ayet, huwag kang magsasawa. So the same is given to Miss Ayet Ciferiols for sharing her invaluable insights for the webinar of the same title given today sa August 3, 2024 via Zoom. And thank you so much. But before we end today's webinar, kanina pa nag-i-invite si Doc Marian. Ito, nandito yung details. So we begin with themes, teaching English in multilingual settings. This webinar is free, but these events that I'm going to invite you to, they are all paid, paid events. But please make sure that you consider kasi very minimal lang naman ang aming fees. So teaching English in multilingual settings will run from August 15 to October 15, 2024. But you're not going to attend classes every single day or on a regular basis during this period kasi it's mostly asynchronous. You will be working independently online, but you will be meeting 3 times synchronously. One in August, one in September, another one in October. Please join. Doc Marian, you might want to give the dates to those who are interested para they can block off their calendar, mark their calendar. So, again, this is for 1,000 something lang for 3 months. You will learn a lot through the LMS prepared by Doc Marian, the materials, independently, again, at your own time, at your own pace. But discussions will be enriched and your understanding, of course, will also be processed through the sync sessions. We'll get back to that later pag ready na si Doc Marian sa dates. The next event is our workshop, kanina pa naman mention ni Doc Marian, which is definitely something that will help those who are interested in using pedagogical not just interested kasi this is a requirement na, di ba? Because this is part of our shaping paper. It's one of your options and it is something that we need to do given that we are a multilingual society. This is using pedagogical translanguaging and teaching English, rising to the challenge of the Matatag curriculum. DepEd teachers, I think you will need some permission or something, but this is on Saturdays naman. You might want to join kasi it's on September 14, 21, and 28. It's going to be a whole day event on these 3 Saturdays from 8:30 to 4 p.m. So, and it is on site at the Ateneo de Manila University. Please use the link to register. And then this is with Doc Marian, me, Miss Michelle, and Miss Irene. The next event is our 57th ASALT Annual Conference Workshop. This is an international workshop, this time on teaching literature in the 21st century ELT classroom, an age of multiliteracies and multimodalities. This will be on November 14, 15, 16 at the Ateneo de Manila University. And we're fortunate to have Emeritus Professor Dr. Malakai Edwin Vettamani of the University of Nottingham, Malaysia. So that's November 14 to 16 of this year. Please take note, very affordable ang ating registration fees. And lastly, for December, so may mangyayari from August until December monthly. Please take note. Teachers Club naman, it's a Teachers Club workshop on teaching close reading. This is going to be on December 7 and it's a half-day event, so 9 to 12 noon. This is really for Teachers Club members. So if you're not a member yet, we encourage you to join. Okay? Thank you so much. Doc Marian, meron ka ng dates for the sync sessions for
Posted on the
Teams chat box. Okay. All right. So again, don't be intimidated by the 3-month period. Hindi kayo magmi-meet ng parang regular class. So you will only see Doc Marian and the rest of your classmates for 3 sync sessions. And the rest of the time, you will be learning with Doc Marian asynchronously. Okay? Thank you so much. So, I'd like to remind everyone, those who have been asking about the attendance and all, and the certificates, the chat box, yung mga worried since the start of the webinar, this is it. Please make sure that to get your certificate of attendance, you have to fill out the evaluation form. Kasi ganito nga tayo sa ASALT, di ba, kaliwaan. So, the evaluation form link is here. You can use the QR code, but we can also send you the link through the email that we use to send you our announcements. And then once we get your evaluation, your accomplished evaluation forms, then we will send the link to the certificate by 1 p.m. today. Okay? So there's no need to worry about getting the attendance for today. Ito na yon. Once you accomplish the evaluation form, then that serves as your attendance. All right. Anything else? Ayan, buksan na daw ang camera. Kasi magpipicture na tayo. Okay, while we prepare, Doc Marian, go ahead.
Only for those who are able to turn on their camera. Baka not everyone.
Yes, that's right. Okay. So everyone, wait, kailangan natin siyang, yung view is gallery. Okay, there.
Doc Che, is it okay if I take a picture of the 3 of you po with the panel members so we have one?
Yes, please.
Sige
Yes,
po.
please. Okay. All right.
Ready? 1, 2, 3, smile. One more. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay po, everybody, please
Thank
join
you.
us. Those who can turn on the cameras, please do. I have
We
7.
have people from different parts of the country. Hindi ko na kayo ito, meron tayong mga taga, saan ba yan? Sige, shout out sa inyong lahat. Hindi ko makita na, ang haba na nung thread sa chat box.
Okay po.
Thank you for
7
joining
slides
us.
po. Thank you po. 7 slides po. Hold your smiles.
Wow.
First slide. Smile. 1, 2. Okay, next slide. 1, 2. Dalawa lang po pala yung slides na may cameras on. So, okay na po. Maraming salamat po.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Our mga Asaltsuki, nakikita namin kayo ngayon. Maraming salamat. And those who just joined us today, please make sure that you join us again in the future. Doc Marian, Miss Ayet, sa uulitin. Thank you so much. And Margo, Carms, and Miss Vicky, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good day, everyone. Good morning.
Bye-bye. Good morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you po.
Thank you. I'll stop recording na pala.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.